Hey guys, it's Khalid again, doing another video essay. I put out, I didn't know what to talk about, or I had like a few different ideas, and I put out like a little poll on Twitter, and I got sort of like a three-way tie between doing a post-mortem on the Bernie campaign, doing like a breakdown of identity politics and why it sucks. And finally, what I decided upon is this thing that I just called extra-partisan strategy. And I'm not sure why anybody voted for that, but it kind of sounds cool, so let's just talk about it. I'm not very well prepared, and just off the bat, I'm not gonna actually deliver a coherent answer for what I guess the topic is, which is what is a socialist electoral politic or project would look like within the American context. But I will talk about like a bunch of different ideas, try to help us understand how we vet different strategies, which things work and which things don't work, and hopefully based on that be able to get closer to an answer and see the conversation. I'm not very well prepared. I've sort of lost my ability to read, write, organize my thoughts over the past month or so, and so you're gonna have to bear with me. I have like a tiny little outline that I'm gonna rely on, and hopefully we'll power through. All right, so let's do this. So, welcome to the video essay, Corona Madness to the nth degree. And today we will talk about extra-partisan strategy. And here what we're talking about is finding a socialist electoral strategy that can achieve success. And what I mean by success, there could be something that appears to be successful, that looks like success based on some arbitrary metrics that are provided by society as it stands today, or the political system as it stands today. Okay, you're just trying to win seats and you want to chalk them up as wins for yourself. That looks like success. But if the seats that you're winning and the politics that you build to win those seats doesn't scale to what you need it to, then those wins don't live on the trajectory that you need them to. So you're putting a lot of effort and investment and resources into doing something, into building a machine that's meant to do something very specific, but that specific thing is not compatible with the destination that you want to get to. So this is the success. Our success is determined by our goal, and our goal is to change a lot of shit. So what does this a lot of shit mean? And let's kind of like scale it down into like a more short-term thing where I say, okay, I expect that the way that a socialist transformation is going to take effect is capitalism creates crises from time to time. During these crises, capitalism as a system, as a set of institutions, is at its most vulnerable. And the way that you take advantage of that is that the counterpart to that has enough power and capacity and civil institutions to take advantage of that crisis and convert to a new state. I sort of talked about this in the first video that I did when I talked about like what is the destination that we're trying to get to and what does it look like. So like the pieces that are required to actually take advantage of the crises that capitalism creates are like if we want to put it in terms of a legislative agenda, a rough one, what we want to say is I want laws to be passed in Congress, because we're talking about an electoral strategy. I want laws to be passed and signed into law that move material power to workers. So time, money, resources, whatever it might be, we want to try and make workers as strong as possible. The second thing that we want to do is we want to facilitate the ability of workers to coalesce and organize and exert both political influence and exert power over their workplace, decision making, stuff like that. And then finally, what we want to do is we want to curtail the power of corporations. They are the antagonist in the story. And what we want to do is we want to limit their power in an absolute sense, but also specifically in relation to workers and in relation to the state. Those are the three rough legislative goals. How they manifest in terms of laws or whatever it is, that's all dependent, right? But roughly you can think material power, get people healthcare, increase their wages, guarantee their jobs, provide them with education, and so on and so forth. Car check for union power, sectorial bargaining, stuff like that, and then curtailing corporate powers like anti-monopoly stuff. I don't know, just again, roughly, I'm just talking in terms of the power distribution within our system. So that's the agenda. What would the political landscape look like that can achieve that agenda? Okay. This is sort of stupid and to even say, but it's honestly something that people seem to ignore. But if we just simplify our entire political model and say, okay, there's a Senate, there's the House, there's a presidency, those are the institutions that make and pass laws, then the simplest possible ask for us in terms of the project that we want to have is we want to be able to exert enough power to compel the majority of our representatives to pass a specific agenda. That's it. Okay, very, very simple, but you have to just keep it in your brain the whole time you kind of think about what a political project needs to accomplish in the end. The majority of your representatives, you need to be able to compel them, and this is important, right? Because often what we do is we say, okay, what we're going to try to do is get good people in and then they're going to do the right thing. Fuck that. Okay, that's baby brain shit. What you need is the ability to exercise power and influence, okay, over people who are your representatives to make sure that they go, whatever their ideological inclinations are, whatever their desires, whatever other forces also exist in their world, you want to be able to have more power, more influence, and you have to be able to force them to do what you want, because if they don't, then they don't get to get elected again. This is what we need. And you want them to do specifically the things that matter the most for you. So you have to have the narrowest, honestly, the narrowest possible agenda, because with only the things that matter the most. Okay? Because if you have a buffet of asks that you want to take to every single representative and say, hey, I want A, B, C, and D, and they say, oh, I can't give you A or B, but I can give you C or D, are you going to give me your voters? Okay? You put yourself in a position where you have to give up certain things. And most certainly, in the system that we're in right now, a system that's trying to maintain the stability of the capitalist order, okay, where there's a power distribution between capitalists and workers, the first thing that's going to be off the menu for these people is going to be the stuff that matters in terms of material power distribution. So you go and you say, okay, I want you to condemn, X, Y, and Z, and I want you to stand up to this. I want you to do a bunch of symbolic shit, and I want you to pass this law that gives people healthcare. They're going to be like, I can't do the healthcare thing, but all the symbolic shit, I'm more than happy to do. And you're like, you're in a tough spot, right? You can say, I want all of it or none of it, but you're sort of walking in with a position of willingness to negotiate because you have this buffet of things that you're asking for. On the other hand, if you have just one thing, you say, okay, what I want is I want $30 an hour minimum wage. Okay, and that's the only thing that I want. They can't negotiate with you by selecting from the different options that you have. They're sort of forced to negotiate with you over the scale of your ask. Okay, so maybe that's where you want to, like, honestly, that's where you want to work. So the power to compel them to do specific things, the things that matter the most, and throw out everything else that is unimportant. You have to triage your priorities and narrow them as much as possible. This is how you create an effective movement. Okay, so now that we have what we think is the landscape that we need to build, like we might ask, like, what is a strategy? What is a strategy that actually creates this landscape? Influence over enough representatives, the majority of representatives, to pass these laws. So, like, the basic ideas that are on the table right now is one, for the left to embed itself deeply within the Democratic Party and to go and compete in seats that are safe, that can be moved left, whatever the fuck that means. And then you basically elect good people, you put them in, and they do the right thing. Okay? Disastrous, absolutely disastrous. Because the politics, the engine that you build in order to create this outcome, okay, is something that doesn't scale. Okay, once you're done with a few representatives, you have 7 senators, whatever it is, okay, you still need to get the majority of senators to vote for you, okay, or vote for your agenda. But the politics that you created actually doesn't scale. It doesn't work. It doesn't do anything for you. But moreover, okay, the reason that this is a fucking joke is because you have no way of exerting influence over the people that you got elected. They're going to go into this machine. Nancy Pelosi's in this ear telling them, I'm going to give you a seat on this this little committee, whatever it is. These donors, these lobbyists are walking through the door, and you're like, no, you've betrayed us, AOC. We will now fight you. Now you have to go through another primary battle to find somebody more pure of heart, because you have no leverage over these people at all. Like, you can't go to the GOP, right? You've embedded yourself inside the Democratic Party, and not only that, you're orbiting over like a tiny little pool of like the most hyper-liberal people. You have zero leverage in this negotiation. You're screwed. You're going to lose all your people to basic influences, the powers that exist within Congress or within our political system. So, Dem Party, bad idea. The other thing is creating a third party, creating like a socialist, Labor Party, whatever you might want to call it. Not like the worst thing. Like, if you can get it done, the problem is you can't get it done. The Republican and Democratic Party act as arms of the state. Okay, the state has transformed itself to incorporate them to a large degree. So much so that the idea of a third party or a fourth party or whatever it is too difficult, okay? And you're always fighting an uphill battle that cannot be won. Now, both these topics of like whether to embed the Democratic Party or to form a third party, those are things that we can sort of discuss separately. I think you can kind of go break them down. I haven't given them infinite amounts of thought. The Democratic Party one, yes, I have thought about it just because it's so bonkers. The third party thing, I think there's like stuff to do to interrogate it, but you know, on its surface, like, holy shit, man. Dem Party, Republican Party, they're not gonna open up any room. And at the end, what can you do? Okay, you win a few seats here or there. Do you get the majority of votes in the House and the Senate? No. Can you exert influence enough in this scenario where you have like this triangle of power? You sort of can't, right? So it's just not a winning formula overall. Anyways, so now we talked about what we can't do, what doesn't actually get us to the landscape that we need. In part 2, we're going to talk about what may get us there.